pen died on me as I was writing, as you can see. You want to write these things down. I put the English pronunciation of all those things anyway. Where's Brett this morning? It's not 10 o'clock yet. It's not 10 o'clock yet. All right. I know Brother John will enjoy this when he gets here, but he's in the orchestra. So some of them have to come late. Some of them just come late. All right. Let's have a word of prayer. All right. Are you ready?
Amen.
All right. Sister Andino, it's always good to have you in this class. Would you mind leading us in prayer today? No?
Somebody.
Okay, somebody else. All right. Brother Bill,
Yes.
we get something out of you this morning, even though you didn't get biscuits and gravy, okay? Got homemade donuts.
And I was promised.
Yeah, homemade donuts.
I'll eat them.
All right.
Lord, our Heavenly Father, Jesus, we come to you in prayer today, just thanking for this opportunity to be here to learn your word, Lord, and for each one that's here. We just thank you for them, Lord, that for a witness for you and to hear to learn your word. Father, I know some of them are going to be taking some trips, so we pray for them, Father, to bring them back safe because they mean a lot to us. And be good to go with us and guide us each and every day, Lord, that we might be a witness to somebody, that we might learn something here, that we can help someone with. And we ask all these things in Jesus Christ's holy name.
Amen. Well, let's go to Ezekiel, book of Ezekiel. All right. And we talked about, last week, we talked about the faces of hell, didn't we? The faces of hell. We talked about old Satan, Lucifer, and all the things that he's been up to for a long time. You know, he still is bugging us today, and still bugging us. He's the God of this world, this moment. The prince and the power of the air. But we're going to find out here, it talks about in the 29th chapter of Ezekiel. By the way, Nebuchadnezzar died about 561 BC. He was about 83 or 84 years old. And God used Nebuchadnezzar to bring judgment on Israel for their ungodliness. Okay? Pharaoh Hophea had made a conspiracy with Zedekiah and rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar. I think Nebuchadnezzar had to go against Jerusalem 3 different times, I believe, to finally bring them down. And that's when the city was completely leveled. The temple was torn down and everything. Finally, it was all over with. But the conspiracy that Zedekiah made with the king of Egypt, or the Pharaoh of Egypt, was God prophesied that he didn't want that to happen. That Nebuchadnezzar was his prince. That Nebuchadnezzar was going to be his judge. And so, because of Pharaoh's part in this conspiracy with Zedekiah, God's going to judge Egypt. And he tells them, now this Pharaoh said, because you have said the Nile is mine and I have made it. Pharaoh said that he was God. That he was God. And that he had made the Nile River. And he had made everything that was good for them. He was the author of life. Okay? He said, all the inhabitants of Egypt will know that I am the Lord. He said, yeah. Somebody. That's Ezekiel 29. Okay? 29 verse 6. And all the inhabitants of Egypt will know that I am the Lord, because they have been only a staff made of reed to the house of Israel. In other words, a very small, not a staff, not a war club, but just a little brittle staff like a reed. And it breaks and it goes through your hand and injures your hand. That's what I was talking about here. When you took hold of it with your hand, it broke and it tore all their hands. And when you leaned on them, and by the way, these are kind of like bamboo. Bamboo, boy, is dangerous. Did you know that? That's the largest grass there is. But you can cut bamboo, and bamboo will cut you like a knife. It's really brittle. And in Vietnam, they used bamboo booby traps, where they would stab people with bamboo. They'd step on and fall on bamboo, and it would just impale you. So he said, these reeds are going to be like bamboo. They're going to go through your hands and cut your hands off. He said, and when leaned upon, you broke, and made all their loins quake. You broke. God said He was going to break Egypt. Also, Egypt was one of the richest nations in the world. My grandma used to sing the song, my pocketbook is empty, not a penny to my name. I'm just a lowly hobo railroad bum awaiting for a train. That's what Egypt was going to be like. Just a bunch of bums for a long time after that. He was going to break Egypt because of what they did. Yes?
Is Egypt is going to be judged on these days? Is there something in the Bible?
There is still judgment on Egypt today. It's never been the great nation that it once was. Different kings in the past wanted to make Egypt great. You remember some of them? One of them met his Waterloo. Remember who that was?
What he said?
He met his Waterloo. Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was going to make Egypt his seat of his power, of his new empire. That's one went over there. He's the one that shot the nose off the Sphinx. And they stole a lot of the stuff. The pyramids one time were covered with like glass, alabaster. They were covered, and when the sun would shine in Egypt, can you imagine those pyramids in Egypt? How many of you ever seen the pyramids of Egypt? Anybody ever seen them real? Seen them? You have. All right. Can you imagine them with glass covers on them? Alabaster? Different kings of Europe went over there and completely dismantled the outside of those pyramids and took all of that alabaster, and it went all over Europe. Some of them came even to America, shipped all over later, alabaster. They took the alabaster off of the covering of those pyramids. Can you imagine the sun coming up and the sun going down and shining off those pyramids, how beautiful that was? Well, the luster and the beauty and the shine and all the gold of Egypt. Just think about all that. God broke Egypt. He said, I'm going to bring you down. I'm going to bring you down to Sheol. In verse 30, He's going to judge Egypt and her allies. He's going to judge Assyria. All right? Syria is going to was a cedar in Lebanon with the beautiful branches. He talks about Assyria in chapter 31. And then where we're going to start here, the lamentation over Egypt, chapter 32 of Ezekiel. And it came about in the 12th year, the 12th month, in the first month, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, take up lamentation over Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and say to him, You compared yourself to a young lion of the nations. You are like the monster of the seas, and you burst forth into your rivers, and you muddied the waters with your feet. In other words, he was a conqueror. He crossed many rivers. He muddied many rivers with his feet. He said that's not going to happen anymore. He said, I will cause the birds of the heaven to dwell on you, and I will satisfy the beasts of the earth with your flesh. And I will lay flesh on the mountains and in the valleys with your refuse. And I will also make the land drink the discharge of your blood. He goes on, down in verse 11. For thus saith the Lord God, the sword of the king of Babylon shall come upon you, and by the swords of the mighty I will cause your multitude to fall. Then he goes on down, and over there, in verse 16, he said, This is a lamentation, and they shall chant it. The daughters of the nation shall chant it over Egypt and over all her multitude, and they shall chant it, declares the Lord. He tells exactly the time. In verse number 21, he said, The strong among the mighty ones shall speak of his helpers from the midst of Sheol. The midst of Sheol. They have gone down, they lie still, the uncircumcised slain by the sword. And Assyria, there all her company, graves are round about her, and all of them slain, fallen by the sword, whose graves, quiver, are set in the remotest parts of the pit. All right? Dishonorable place in a sepulchre. In a sepulchre, when you walked in, the most prominent person would be in a special place. But I'm going to put you back in the recesses of the sepulchre. You're not going to have a... And you know, Egypt was a land of graves and tombs, wasn't it? And you're going to get... Yeah, you've been famous for your tombs. You're going to be buried with sand. out there with the poverty, the poor people. All of them are going to be slain. The Lamb is there, and all the multitude around her grave, all the slain, fallen by the sword, went down, uncircumcised of the Lord parts of the earth, and instilled their terror in the land of the living, and bore their disgrace with those who went down to the pit. He talks about the graves. He's going to bury them. He's in verse 27, nor do they lie beside the fallen heroes of the uncircumcised. They went down to Sheol with their weapons of war, whose swords were laid under their heads. But the punishment for their iniquity rested on their bones, though the terror of these heroes, remember, that's the strong ones, was once in the land of the living. All right. That's where we're going to quit right there. Now we're going to go talk about the state of the dead. People get confused about the state of the dead. Back in the late 1700s and early 1800s, a lot of people were fooling around with seances and stuff. This was very popular. Yes.
So that's in you read chapter 32?
Yes.
Okay. So we get started.
We'll get started there next week.
Okay.
The state of the dead, it talks about the dead, it talks about the grave, it talks about Sheol. And I'm going to teach this a little bit from the book that I wrote, The Doctrines of the Bible, and it's on the doctrine of hell. Okay? If you've got that at home, when you look at this, when you go home and look at that, you can do it. I have written many words up here on the board. All right? Now, where is hell located? Everything talks about hell. What direction is hell in?
It's underneath the earth, right?
Huh?
Underneath the earth?
It's down.
Yeah.
Down. Now, the book of Revelation says it's down under the earth, down below, down under. Kata hipo, down under. So it's probably not in the earth, so to speak. Here's the earth. We'll just put a round ball like that. That's the earth. Okay? Now, if you're down under the earth, it wouldn't be in the earth, would it? It would be down under the earth, out here someplace, out maybe into the third heaven in space below the earth. All right? And that's where the abode of Sheol was. Now, let's look at it. Sheol is down below, down under the earth. Sheol. Sheol means what? Brett?
A bottomless pit, I think.
No.
Place
asked about?
What? The place asked about, Sheol. All right? Did Israel ever call and ask for a king?
Yeah.
What was his name they asked for?
Saul.
Saul. Saul and Sheol come from the same word. Okay? Saul and Sheol come from the same word. We looked at the word Sheol here just continually here. All right? Now, let's look at some of the things that people ask about hell. The place asked about, that's what Sheol means, the place asked about. Okay? What happens to you? How about ghosts? How many of you believe in ghosts? You ever hear about ghosts? How many of you ever have encountered demon spirits?
Oh, I have.
All right, there we go. Now, demon spirits are not ghosts. Ghosts don't exist. Ghosts do not exist. People are not going to travel from hell or heaven and come back and visit you at all. Sheol is a depository. Before the time of Christ, Sheol was a depository of, actually God made it. Why did God make Sheol or hell? Why did He make it? Why was hell created, or Sheol created?
It was like a holy ground until Jesus came, I thought.
What was it created for? Thank you, young lady. You get an A+ today. For the devil and his angels and fallen spirits that followed him. All right? Now, if you encounter what you might think is a ghost in the world today, or you think you are communicating with some dead person, you're communicating with one of the legions of hell.
What if they look like your family?
Well, they could appear. Now, some of our families, some people I know, you think they come right out of Tartarus anyway.
Somebody's trying to take my thunder.
Demon spirits will try to what? What is the devil? He's called what? Last week we thought, what's one of his names?
Liar.
The deceiver. The great deceiver. The great liar. That people might believe a lie and be what? Damned.
Yeah.
They might believe a lie and be damned. There are no ghosts. I didn't say there are no haunted houses. I didn't say that. I didn't say that that you might go into an area. A few years ago out there, I had some I had some Catholic people rent our little rent house there one time, and they were extremely superstitious. The first time they asked me, they said, "Did anybody ever die out here?" Because, you know, all of these graves on the side of the roads and stuff, that's where the person got killed, and so they think their spirit hovers around there. Their spirit doesn't hover around there. Their spirit is in hell or heaven. That's it. They're not going to hover around. They're not going to come back and visit you again. Not going to happen. They're there. That's where they are. Very few exceptions we have in the Bible where God sent somebody back. One of them was in the Old Testament. Samuel. Remember the king, Saul? The name that Sheol comes after, the root of the one asked for? All right. Saul was a bad boy, wasn't he? The bad boy of Israel. He was the king, he was handsome, he was tall, he was brave, and everything, and very considerate, and even humble to begin with. But then he tried to be prophet, priest, and king, didn't he? And God didn't go for that. He said, "I have rejected you. I have rejected your seed. All your children are going to be killed. You're not going to have anybody sit on the throne. I'm going to replace you with somebody else." Zeb, replace. That's what Zeb means, replace you. I'll replace you with somebody else. And then he was going to go fight a war, wasn't he? And he got scared. And Samuel wasn't there. Samuel had died. And instead of going and asking for the next priest or whatever, the high priest or whoever, what did he do?
It's a soothsayer.
He got him a witch. He got him a medium. What we call the witch or the medium of Endor. All right? And he had, Saul originally had, God hates witches. He hates mediums. He hates these people that are soothsayers and fortune tellers. So if you trust in fortune tellers or soothsayers or these people that dwell in between worlds, in the nether region, you're playing with hell. Playing with hell. And I'm going to tell you something. They're more powerful than you are. Don't mess with this stuff. They will deceive you. These demon spirits were created. They were good spirits at one time. Back in eternity past, God created one of the, in Genesis 1:1 it says, Barashit bara Elohim et hashemayim ve'et haaretz. In beginnings, one of the beginnings, God created the heavens and the earth. All right? And then we find in verse 2, we haaretz, and the earth, she became formless and void. Something destroyed the earth back there. Well, in the original earth and the original creation, by the way, there's going to be three of them. Three trinities of everything. There was the earth that was, the earth that is, and the earth that shall be. Okay? Think about that for a while. Trinities. Back then, there was vegetation on the earth. There were dinosaurs. There were all kinds of beings. Now, we've got a screwball bunch of people today that talk about a young earth group. That would be fine if that was scriptural, but it's not. Okay? That's not what the Bible teaches. But accordingly, they ignore the original scriptures, they ignore the original languages, and they don't care about it. If you read the original languages in Hebrew, you would find out the earth is very old. It was created in one of the beginnings back there. And there was things on this earth, Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28, which we looked at already, didn't we? We saw what had happened to the earth. Well, God allowed Satan to destroy the earth with his demon spirit. And just think about it now. The earth, the destruction of the first earth, God allowed Lucifer to destroy all the animals on the earth and all the vegetation. And now we have fossil fuel because of that, don't we? Now, what is going to bring people to the cradle? We went from the cradle of humanity in the Garden of Eden, and we're going to have the graveyard of humanity over there in the Middle East. And what's it going to be over with? Oil. The fossil fuel, the products of Satan's rebellion. People in America, we got plenty of oil here. We got more oil than we can ever use.
Yep.
But they'll ship it out. You will never get it. They will keep the prices up because we are infested with greed. And greed is the curse of mankind. But it's going to bring people back over in the Middle East because these oil companies want all the oil. Not some of it, because they want all the wealth of the world. Okay? But that greed, why did Satan rebel? Greed and pride. Why are we having so much problem with humanity today? Greed and pride. That's it, greed and pride. What happened? What was the result of the first rebellion? Was the fossil fuel and everything today? And now they're fighting over the remains of Satan's destruction today. Greed. Same problem Lucifer had. Well, the earth was the abode of Lucifer and his angels. He was a caretaker over all the earth. He was the light carrier of the earth, the shining one. Okay? And he destroyed the earth. So God reconstructed the earth in Genesis 1. And he put man in the place of Lucifer. So man was the shining element of the earth. He was supposed to be the caretaker of the earth. Well, Lucifer, the great deceiver, deceived him then, and he's still deceiving mankind today. Now those demon spirits, some of those demon spirits were put and placed in a low part of hell, or of Sheol, Tartarus. Look at these words. Here we have quiver. That means a grave that you put a body in. Okay, hold on, Brett. Here's Tophet. That's a place in the bottomless pit. Here is Gehenna. Gehenna. And actually it's Gehinnom. It means the valley of the sons of Hinnom. Hinnom. Okay? Gehenna, or Gehenna now. Alright? And every one of these, Sheol, you can look up on page 982 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs lexicon. Quiver, you look on page 868. Tophet, you look up on page 1075. And Gehenna, or Gehinnom, is page 135 in Davidson's. And then Gehenna, page 111 in Thayer. Look up there at Hades. Hades is equivalent to what?
Sheol.
Sheol. Hades means what? The place not seen. No one ever saw hell and went back. Tartarus. That's a place in the bottomless pit. Paradiso. That was a place in Sheol at one time, but it's been moved. There it is, and 480 in Thayer, and Brown, Driver, and Briggs is 825. Minamion is a memorial, or Tophet. All right? That is a grave. That's like Quiver in the Old Testament. And then we have Abyss. Abyss, you can't dig, you can't put somebody in a pit, the bottomless pit. It comes from Abyss. We get our word abyss right out of that word. It means no bottom. And then Limnon tu Tyros, the lake of fire. These are all terms for the final abode, the state of the dead. Okay? Now let's go back to Samuel. Talk about Samuel just a little bit more. Now Samuel, when he last saw Saul, what did he say to Saul? What's the last words that Samuel said to Saul?
Did he say, what did you say, where do you bring him here for? Or why
He said, you will never see my face again. That's what he told him. You'll never look upon me again. Okay? You'll never see me again, and you are going to die. I am taking my kingdom away from you and giving it to someone more worthy than he was. The man, my beloved, David. All right. Now, the witch of Endor, let's go on just a little bit further. The witch of Endor now. When Saul finally got a hold of this witch, this medium, this soothsayer, this Nostradamus type person, okay? Gene Dixon, a few other, what, can you name some other ones today? All these people that are predicting the end of the world. Well, it's coming.
The Mayans.
Crazy Horse predicted the end of the world. Of the Lakota.
A lot of people think it's this month, May 21st, or this
May
year.
21st, that's Harold Camping's idea of the end of the world. If the Lord comes back and raptures us, well, it's not the end of the world, it'll be the rapture. But, and then 7 years of terrible tribulation. All these people predicted this. Samuel had an experience that shook him, and that witch, that medium, that soothsayer, had an experience that scared the daylights out of her. She was used to dealing with demon spirits. They're supernatural. All demon spirits are supernatural. If somebody is dealing with the spirit world and getting information, they are coming from the demonic realms, the regions of hell. Sheol, Tophet, Tartarus, Abyssal. These are the places that they're dealing with. This is real, by the way. By the way, not only back in the 1700s when people started being mediums and searching for all this, you know, Hugh Needy got caught up in this also, even in his later in time. He finally said they were all a bunch of frauds. Because he was a pretty smart old boy. He was so caught up with it, but he said they were all frauds. These people were. But I'm going to tell you something, there's some of them that are not frauds. Some of them are really working with demonic spirits. Acts the 16th chapter and verse 16, there was a girl there working with demon spirits. It even names, and this demon spirit, it even names him the great python, the great snake. Who is the great snake of the Bible?
The devil.
The old devil. That's who he is. So he had inhabited her, and she was getting some real information from the spirit world. But it wasn't anything good. It's not of God. People that work with spirits, it is not of God. All right? I don't want to get into this too deeply, but how many of you have actually encountered demon spirits that you thought were ghosts or something? I have. Several times.
Why don't you raise my hand?
And I'm going to tell you something. Every time it makes my hair stand on end. I didn't want to have anything to do with it because I know what it's coming from. Talk about these near-death experiences and all kinds of stuff. All people talk about all these things. I'll tell you what, I've been near death so many times. I got plenty of them. But you're not going to go over there and come back. Not going to happen.
Not unless God says so.
Yeah. God sent one man back. But I'm going to tell you something. You go over there where Samuel encountered Saul, and Saul did not see him. He heard his voice, and he talked to him, but he didn't see him. Because Samuel told Saul, you won't see me again, didn't you? You won't see me again. You go there and you look at it, and who did see Samuel? The medium, the witch, the soothsayer saw Samuel, scared her to death. She was terrified. And when she saw who he was, she knew who Saul was. All right? She knew who Saul was. We're talking about the state of the dead, brother. The state of the dead. Now, I know you're trying to keep people alive, but we're talking about the state of the dead.
Thought maybe you just
Doctors are really good about trying to keep people alive. All right? We're talking about the state of the dead. The hereafter. All right? The hereafter. Well, Saul got some information, didn't he? All right, you're going to die, Saul. Get ready to die. That's it. God sent Samuel back to talk to him. It didn't send him back visibly. The witch saw him. Now the woman was used to dealing with demon spirits. Acts the 16th chapter. Up there on Mount Carmel where Elijah dealt with all of those prophets of Baal. Every one of them were demonically influenced. All of them. All of them. Coming all the way through the Old Testament, we see people dying. Wehamoth, over and over and over it says in Hebrew, and he died, and he died. Somebody lived 950 years, Behemoth, and he died. Adam lived 930 years, and Behemoth, he died. Every person in this world except for two. Who are the two that didn't die? Enoch and Elijah. And Enoch preached for 300 years. And Elijah, what were they a type of in the Bible? We have two examples. The Bible says, by 2 or 3 witnesses, let everything be established. Don't we? Think about it. The type of the rapture. The type of the rapture. 1 Thessalonians 4:16 and 17. That's a type of the rapture. Someone go there, 4:16 and 17. We're talking about live people now. They're going to be raptured.
What book, sir?
What?
What book?
Theologians.
1 Thessalonians 4:16 and 17. Someone got your Bible open? 1 Thessalonians 4:16 and 17. Go there. Because Elijah and Enoch are a type of the rapture. Okay? We're going to go through all of these words up here on the blackboard in a few minutes. We looked at them a little bit a while ago. All right. Who's got 1 Thessalonians? Sister Anthena?
For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet of God. And the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And thus we shall always be with the Lord.
All right. That's the rapture. Enoch and Elijah were a type of the rapture. God can do it. God will do it. Okay? We have an example of that. Marilyn, that thing's making an awful lot of racket back there.
Yeah, I think it was like a magpie.
Yeah. Either chop it up, throw it out the door, or turn it off or something. Give it a karate chop or
I thought there
something.
was a ghost back there.
Anyway, one of them ghosts are coming in, one of them demon spirits. There aren't any demons. There aren't any ghosts.
Well, I know it's best with you,
There isn't somebody, not your aunt. Mohammed is not coming back to talk to anybody.
Now,
Yeah.
okay, in a Best Western Hotel in Douglas, Wyoming, my mom worked there.
Mhm.
My mom is a very sound-minded woman.
Yeah.
And when she went to work there, numerous people that worked in the restaurant and the motel area and all this, they all talked about this ghost that would be seen in this certain dining hall, and not daily or anything, but there had been
Occasionally.
numerous accounts of it. And Mom said she'd listen to them the night, and she worked in the evening. She'd have to go in there and vacuum it. And she said she opened the door to go in there and looks up, and she said he was standing right there. And she simply shut the door, relocked it, and the room did not get vacuumed. Okay, when she told me this,
Good
I was
idea.
like, yeah, I mean, it's like, I have had people tell me, oh, there's a ghost, and I never, but my mom, a total sound, would you say that is a situation where the devil is simply
That's what the
using it
demons-
to cause mass confusion?
That's right, and to
a lot-
lead people away from God. If people can believe in demon spirits and think that they are angels or good persons that came back, or even bad persons that came back, now these spirits know everybody that's ever lived. They've been around. They're supernatural, okay? I'm going to give you an example. 2 times in my life when I have experienced demonic activity. One was a house that lived down the street from where I did. I went in there, was practicing the guitar, and I called in the other room, and when I come back in, the cord was pulled out of the wall every time. Nobody went in there and did this, but the cord was pulled out of the wall. I was learning how to play the guitar. And it was an electric guitar, and every time I'd go in there and do it. The second time or third time that happened, I took off. I left. Didn't want to go back. Never did that again. When I married Marilyn, I moved out there, and every now and then, I'd be working hard out there in the heat in the daytime, and I'd go in there and try to lay down every day and get my feet up in the recliner and just turn the TV on without sound. Just turn it on and just sit there and relax. Sometimes I'd take a 5 or 10 minute nap. And several times doing this, I heard somebody come in the back door, walk across the kitchen, and go down the hallway. Plain as day. And I hollered at Marilyn. She wasn't there. This happened quite a few times. And Dakota has experienced it. Marilyn has experienced it. And what did we do, Marilyn? You remember what happened when I really realized what was going on? We got down and we prayed that God would remove these demon spirits from that area. Now, I have never had any more trouble from it, but it was not a ghost. That's demons, people. Demons. Wandering around there. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Now, somebody that was a little more naive about spirit world, they would say, "Boy, we got a ghost now," and maybe they'd start trying to communicate with them or whatever. I don't want to communicate with them. I don't want to have anything to do with those fallen spirits at all. Nothing. They can imitate people you love, their voices, everything. This happens all over the world. But it is not ghosts. It's real demons. Demon spirits are just as real as that chair you're sitting on. They are what we call immaterial mostly, but they do appear. They can cause. Can demon spirits and bad spirits cause storms? Sure. Read the book of Job. You don't believe it? Read the book of Job. You want to know what demon spirits can do and how they can deal with people? Read the Bible. Not one time are you going to find out God doing this. When God appears to mankind, how does He appear to him? In the Old Testament. Huh?
And a fire and a cloud.
How does He appear? How did God appear to Adam in the garden?
Oh, He was walking with him. The Spirit was walking.
That's right. He was walking with Him in the pre-incarnate Christ. He was Jehovah in the flesh. How did God appear to Abraham?
Like 2 human beings.
As a human being. Walking in the flesh. He appeared to him like that. All right? And how is the other way? How did God appear to Pharaoh? How did God appear to Abimelech? How did God appear to Jacob? How did it happen?
For Jacob,
Most of the time they appeared to them what? In a hypnotic dream. Our word hypnosis comes right out of that. Hypnosis. All right? They would fall asleep and He would appear to them in a dream. That's the way God appeared to these people in the Old Testament. And we find that happened to Paul in the New Testament. And the writers of the New Testament. God would basically hypnotize them. Can demon spirits try to do the same thing to you? They're copycats, aren't they? Can demon spirit evade your dreams? Invade your dreams?
Yeah.
Sure. Can demon spirits... Now, a child of God cannot be possessed by demons. No way. But can demons bother you?
Yeah.
In the book of that Peter wrote, he says, Satan is what? Walking to and fro, seeking whom he may what? Kata-S-T-O, to swallow down. He's real, people. We're talking about the state of the dead today. When a person dies, they either go to heaven or they go to hell. That's it. That's the end of it.
Brother Phillips, but what about when somebody dies or a family member or friend say, oh, I saw him and this and that, and they say that they saw their ghost or something? Is that a demon
Demon
also?
spirits. Demon spirits will work through fear. Okay, they work through fear. Scare, people have seen some horrible apparitions, haven't they? They will try to scare you. Or they will work with pull your heartstrings. You'll see someone that you really loved and try to appear. You'll hear their voices. All of this. Because it touches your heart, doesn't it? Love is a strong thing, isn't it? Love is strong. We don't even understand love. It's something it doesn't make sense. When you put yourself into the hands of somebody else and just, you love them, then you're vulnerable. But when they die, a part of you it's terrible. It's like death. It's like your own death. Part of you dies. And you long to see them. And so people, because they're longing to see them, the old devil will run in and say, hey, George, go down there and pretend you're so-and-so. Speak to the heart, whatever. That happens. That happens all the time. If the devil can deceive you and take glory from God, do you think he would? He's been doing it for 6,000 years in humanity, all the time. All right. Let's look at some of these words again. There's a word for dead in Greek, for dead bodies. That's necros. Necros. It's like Nekros. Necros. Necros, like that. Okay? That's dead body. When a person's spiritually dead, what is that term? Thanatos. Total forever separation. That's the spirit and the body. By the way, when you're separated from God, you're triunely separated from God. Body, spirit, and soul. Whew. Boy, talk about hell. That's hell right there. Body, spirit, and soul, you're separated forever. When you die, necros, your body's dead. Body goes to sleep, so to speak. Falls over, it doesn't breathe anymore. Breathes out. They bury the thing, put it in a hope chest. That's what a coffin is, Put it in a hope chest. Hope you're going to be resurrected. You will be. All the dead are going to be resurrected. All the dead are going to suffer. All the lost dead will suffer from the moment they die. And I think when a person dies and he goes to hell or Hades, okay, that's not Gehenna. That's not the lake of what they call Nemnon to Pteros. It's not the lake of fire. The lake of fire doesn't exist yet. Okay? Eternal hell doesn't exist yet. Just Sheol and Hades exists now. All right? Sheol and Hades.
Which one is Abraham's bosom?
Abraham's bosom was paradise.
Oh, okay.
It was a place in Sheol. Okay? Paradiso. Okay, paradise. That's the word in Hebrew right there. Page 825 on Brown Driver and Briggs, and paradiso, page 480. The word paradise was never translated into English. It came all the way from Persian, which was paradise. It came into Hebrew, which was paradise. It came into Greek, which was paradiso. It came into English, which is paradise.
Spanish.
Never. In Spanish?
Paraíso.
Paradiso. Right.
Paraíso.
Okay, just like in Greek.
I think that's where the Jehovah's Witnesses think that their heaven is. That's where they get it from.
Well, paradise.
Yeah.
Paradise, it means a guarded pleasure park. Now, Abraham's bosom, we have people over there basking in the Old Testament. In Luke the 16th chapter, by the way, Luke the 16th chapter is not a parable. Luke the 16th chapter is not a parable. It is a real story of two men. One of them's name was Dives or Nineveh, and the other one's name was what? Lazarus. Okay, this is not Lazarus in the Bible, Jesus' friend. This is another fellow, and this guy was very poor. Okay? And Nineveh or Dives was very rich. And Dives was a rich man, like most rich men, did not know God at that time. He was the epitome of evil and greed and lust and all of that. And God used him to typify lost humanity. So he wrote the story down in the Bible about him and the guy that sat at his gate, which was Lazarus. Lazarus couldn't afford to go to the doctor. He couldn't get a job. And he had no food to eat except what scraps came from the rich man's garden pot. And remember, back in those days, it was the Oriental Gardens. All of the Spanish architecture and everything, it's not Spanish. That is what we call Muslim culture. They have a courtyard, they have fountains in the middle, and they have these houses and everything, usually in the middle of all of that, and out in the courtyard. And the courtyard in the evening is where they would have the dinners. Out there underneath the trees and whatever, out there in the cool of the evening, they'd have their dinners. And when they get to eating dinner, they'd gather up the scraps and throw it over the wall. Throw it over the gate, over the wall. And on the outside, this is what they call the fling. In Greek, it's the fling. All right? They would fling over the wall scraps. And the dogs were out there getting the scraps, and also Lazarus, picking up what he could off the ground and eating it. And the sores that he had and the wounds, he couldn't afford to go to Dr. John or anybody else back there. The dogs would lick his wounds. Now, the only doctors he had was dogs. All right? This is a real story. This is a real historical fact. It really happened. And then it says that Lazarus died. And what happened to Lazarus when he died? What happened? Luke the 16th chapter. Do you remember the story? What happened to Lazarus when he died?
He went to paradise.
What? He said that angels came for him. Angels came for him. Escorts from the angelic being world came for him. And they took him to paradise where he could be comforted. And Lazarus sat there in paradise and enjoyed good food, a good bed, a good seat, good company. That's right. And he feasted and enjoyed, looking forward to the resurrection when he would be complete in heaven. Looking forward, he was basking in the enjoyment that he was in heaven. He was in, actually it wasn't heaven yet, it was paradise, the garden pleasure park. And he had everything that he needed, water, good water and good food. How many of you saw the book of Eli? Back over, this is a fictitious thing here, but what was the most precious commodity over there?
The Bible.
Well, the water was.
Water!
But the Bible was, well...
But what Bible? He was the only one who had one,
right,
basically. But they made a great error at the end of that movie.
Tell me about it, Jim.
There was a great error at the end of that movie.
What you
Mr.
say,
Drop this.
Willis?
What you talking about?
Right up there, when the guy came over there and he recited the King James Bible, and they got it printed, they took the Bible, the King James Bible, and put it right up there, and right next to it was
Quran, and the Tanakh.
The Tanakh. What is the Tanakh?
The Old Testament.
That's the Old Testament, the Hebrew Old Testament. So they had it. All right, they had it. All right. Anyway,
I didn't see that. I saw the Tanakh, but I didn't think about it.
Tanakh means the Old Testament,
Right,
the Hebrew Old
yeah.
Testament. It was there. They had the Old Testament. Even better than the king of Let's go on. Lazarus, he was comforted. He was comforted for one thing, knowing that it was even going to be better in heaven where he was going to be resurrected and put in. He could enjoy knowing that he was going to heaven and going there. But what happened to Nineveh? What happened to old Dives when he died? He was escorted to where? Hades, to the place of departed spirits that were suffering. When you die, you instantly go. You're instantly escorted to paradise or Hades or Sheol. You go there. That's it. That's where you go. You're not going to come back and haunt anybody. Now, they're demon spirits.
Come back and hot Joanne.
He's going to come back looking for biscuits and gravy. I know what he wants. Got one track
Or
mind.
wins the lottery, I'm going to be right by her.
Yeah. You don't come back and haunt anybody. You don't come back and bother anybody.
That's true.
That's it. It's over. It's over. The test right now, the test is today, what you going to do with Jesus? That's the test. What you going to do with Jesus? What you going to do with Jehovah in the flesh? That's the important thing right now. Well, Sheol, the place asked about, a place of departed spirits, a receptacle for departed spirits. Psalm 16 and 10, Psalm 86 and verse 13, Proverbs 22:14, and all over the book of Ezekiel. Judges 8 and 24. Brown and Driver and Briggs, page 982. Hades. Hades. All right. That's that word. Page 11 and there. The place not seen, the place of departed spirits. Same thing as Sheol in Hebrew. Revelation 1:18. Luke 26 and verse 13. Matthew 16 and 1. Tartarus. Tartarus. That's a place in hell. Now this is a place of torments. Tartarus. 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 Page 16, 615 and there. It's a pit of gloom. The pit of thick darkness like quicksand darkness, to hold a person in the chains of darkness. There, page 615. And 2 Peter 2 and 4, let's go there. 2 Peter 2 and 4. Let's look at this word just a little bit. Even in hell today, before people are resurrected, there's a certain amount of the Trinity of humanity suffering in hell. Because you're thirsty, you're hungry, you remember all of these things. 2 Peter 2 and 4. Sunshine, are you over there?
Yes. For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them into gloomy dungeons to be held for judgment.
All right. Some of the angels and spirits were so bad that they couldn't be turned loose on humanity at all at this period of time. But when will they be turned loose on humanity? They're going to be unloosed from the bottomless pit, aren't they? Tribulation period. Look at that. Over there in the tribulation period, the bottomless pit is open and the chains are unlocked, and they come out to torment mankind. Because if they were on the earth today at this period of time, they would really be wreaking havoc. And some of the people and some of the places in the earth today where most demon activity is where the gospel and demonic activity. Where are some of the places where demons are so prevalent today? Africa. India.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Haiti.
New York City.
New Orleans. San
Las Vegas.
Francisco.
Lost wages.
Raiders.
We don't have to go overseas. We got plenty right here.
Demon activity. People are completely controlled.
Amongst those that use drugs habitually.
That's right.
San Francisco.
All in the book of Revelation. The word for drug use is pharmakia in Greek. they will be, all of those that are habitual drug users are going to be in the lake of fire. The drug addicts. And it's the fearful too, fearful, the cowards. Why is they call somebody, the cowards are going to go to hell? Why cowards? Why cowards? Because at that period of time, when you accept the Lord Jesus Christ as your Savior, you're going to have to be killed. So those ones that fear death so much that they fear death more than they do their eternal damnation, they will go to hell because they're cowardly to die now. Okay? And the dogs! There's a book or a song, All Dogs Go to Heaven. There's a movie or something.
Yeah,
The dogs aren't going to heaven. At all. What kind of dogs are we talking about? We're not talking about the canines.
Homosexuals.
Homosexual male prostitutes. They're doomed. Romans, the first chapter, says they have been given over to a reprobate mind.
Yeah.
The reprobate means what, Marilyn? Reprobate.
Call back or come back?
What?
Call
Someone
back.
who has denied the truth. Reprobate. All right. Tataris. All right. How about Tophet? It was an altar in the valley of Hinnom. Gehinnom, or Gehimon, Hinnom is what it is actually in Hebrew. Brown Driver and Briggs, page 1027. Jeremiah 17 and verse 31 and 2 Kings 23 and verse 10. Talk about some real fire walking. There are going to be a lot of people in hell fire walking. People today, it said in the book of Ezekiel that some of the people made their children pass through the fire. And if you look in India, years ago, they used to have fire walkers, didn't they? That could walk on fire and not burn their feet. You ever seen that, Brother John? Who was the guy that used to put on that stuff, Believe It or Not? Ripley's Believe It or Not. He used to put some things on television, you know, and he had those fire walkers. What do you think protected those fire walkers from that fire? Demons. Demonic. They'd chant and go into their chants and things, and they would commune with the demon spirits, and the demon spirits would protect them as they walked on fire. Well, I want to tell you what, nobody's going to protect them when they walk on the coals of fire of hell. Their feet's going to burn over there. Try you. Try you. Paradiso, the pleasure ground, a guarded pleasure park. Thayer, page 480, and Brown Driver and Briggs, page 825. Luke 23rd chapter and verse 43, and 2 Corinthians 12 and 4, and Revelation 2 and 7, and Luke 16 and verse 22, and 2 Corinthians 12 and 4. Quiver. Quiver. That's that word up here. Quiver. See that one? Quiver and Sheol are not the same place. Now your Seventh-day Adventists and Jehovah's Witness brethren, all of these people, they try to make
A quiver, a bottomless pit.
they try to make Sheol and Quiver and Tartarus and all of it the same thing, but they are not. You can dig a quiver. They got them all over up here on Panorama Bluff up there at Greenlawn
You can't dig a Sheol.
Cemetery up there. You can dig all of them you want to dig, but you can't dig a Sheol. A Sheol is a depository for the spirit world. All right? Abyssal. No bottom. Abyss.
Would that be like saying the equivalent in English would be like saying you're digging to hell?
The what?
If you're going to say you're digging a Sheol, you say like I'm digging to hell.
No bottom. Abyssal, the bottomless pit, the abode of demons. There, page 2. Romans 10 and 7. Luke 8 and 31. Revelation 9 and 1. Remember, the gate to the bottomless pit in Jesus' time. What was the idea of the rabbis about the gate of the bottomless pit? Where was the gate of the bottomless pit?
Oh, in Galilee?
The Sea of Galilee, they thought was the gate of the
Because the pigs
bottomless
went in
pit.
there, right?
And just remember now for a while, they thought that Galilee, they had so many terrible storms out there, they said, man, that place is terrible. Remember down off of the Cape Horn in Africa? There's one over here in America that's really like that out there. I've been out there.
Where's it at?
That's Port South, off of Vandenberg out there, in that 1,000-foot water out there. It's sunk more ships, and it's a place like horrible storms coming. And down there, down off of what's the
The Bermuda Triangle?
no, not Bermuda. I've been across the Bermuda Triangle also. Down in Antarctica, that's what I was trying to think of. Down in Antarctica, where they go around the horn down there. That was very dangerous to go there. Very dangerous.
Fjord.
What?
It's a fjord. It's
Yeah.
thousands of feet deep there.
Yeah.
The sailing ships had a terrible time getting around that.
Yeah. These places in the ancient times, they looked upon them as the gates of hell. They said hell was trying to get you. The devil had his talons coming up out of you, out the deep. And that's what they said about the Sea of Galilee. Now, when Jesus went over there to the area of the Gadarenes, and the Gadarene demoniac came out there, and he was a powerful person. Demons can make you very powerful. Drugs make people very powerful. The police officers and sheriff's officers, they went from 38 specials to what? 357 Magnums. And they went from 357 Magnums because they found out that didn't stop some of these dudes. They had to have a 45 to stop them because they had enough knockdown power. Yes.
Billy said in his police car that nobody can kick his window down unless he's on PCP, and then they can kick him out.
Yeah, right.
They're plastic, isn't it? They're plastic. They don't break.
These people, when you're on drugs, you have supernatural power. We're dealing with the spirit world now. Drugs carry spirits with them. Pharmakia, the drug addicts. Because they go to hell because they wouldn't lay down the drug addicts, the drug abuse. And drug abuse carries with it the spirit world. The American Indians, they would fast and they would go on a spirit quest, where they would try to find out God's will for their lives. They would go out and they would go without eating, and they would basically like the Christians did.
Take peyote seeds.
No. Now we're going to get into that now. All right?
Now,
And then when white man came over here, they brought whiskey. They brought liquor. And the Indians, they would drink this and think they were in the spirit world. The Lakota said, that's a cheap drunk. That's a cheap religion, people. Don't mess with that. Because with that comes demons. The wrong world. You're dealing in the wrong world. And of course the Comanche and the Apache had peyote. And they would drink this, make it this tea out of these peyote buttons, and they would drink it, and they would vomit, and then they would hallucinate. And they thought they were getting information from the spirit world. The Lakota and Dakota people said, that's cheap religion. Don't mess with it. Leave it alone. If you can't fast and pray and seek the presence of God, leave it alone. That's going to get you there real quick. Some of these people on drugs even think that they're Jesus, don't they? Huh? That's right. Most false religions have a false Christ, don't they? Every one of them. Someone that has given them more insight and more light than anybody else. I'm going to tell you what, the Bible has got plenty of light for us, and there are some basic doctrines in the Bible that will not go away, and the state of the dead is one of them. And hell is one of them. It's not going to. But almost every false religion tries to get rid of hell, don't they? They don't want to get rid of hell, and you don't have anything to fear, do you? But hell is really there. It's really
now,
there.
Jim,
Yeah.
there's a spot that's called the Mystery Spot. It's, I believe, above the Santa Cruz Mountains or somewhere around here. And I've been there a couple of times. It's very interesting. And they say it's because of the magnetic balance or this or that. Things turn backwards. Water goes down with the rain backwards. There's a certain area that birds will not fly into it. If you
Maybe animals got better sense than man.
something like a tire
I believe that.
the wrong way, it goes back the other way. Now, with what you said about spirits are able to control weather, then more than likely this is something of demons that has made this interesting, cool spot that people go
We'll
to,
go there,
and it's
and then
written
guess
up
what
in the
happened?
Time Life magazine from like the 30s, and people have been, so it's just another aspect of worldly confusion that leads people to believe
The
in
master of
all kinds of,
confusion.
yeah,
The
okay.
master of confusion. All right, now let's go back to the Sea of Galilee. Sea of Galilee, the rabbi said, was the gates of hell. When Jesus cast the demons out of that man, one demon talked to him, didn't he? Can demons talk? Can demons communicate with you? Oh, yes. God communicates through His Word and through prayer to us. But demons communicate. Boy, I mean, you've got some real revelation there, don't you? Boy, it's scary, too. I don't want any of it. Even in the hyper-charismatic movement, you have the same problem. Rest on the Bible alone. Rest on the Word. We got all the information here that we need. These other easy fixes, cheap religion, they say that the charismatics, when they get into that, if they ever have those experiences, they never get out of it.
You know, a couple of times I've made Joanne mad, and she's looked pretty demonic herself.
We're not going to talk about that bit. We're going to leave Joanne alone. This is Mother's Day.
Mom's Day, man.
Okay.
So I believe a demon.
When Jesus cast, that demon asked Jesus, or those demons asked Jesus, if they could be going to the swine. Demons, angels appear. Demons want to inhabit human or animal flesh. That's fact. They want to inhabit humans or animal flesh. And they wanted to go live in them pigs. And what did the pigs decide?
To jump off
They
the
rather
cliff.
die.
They wanted to jump off in the Sea of Galilee. So what happened out there, those Jews should have taken the lesson from their own ideals and own ideas and say, hey, those demons went right straight into hell. And know that He was the master of the universe. Okay? Now, if birds and animals have got a good enough sense to stay away from some areas, we ought to too. As simple as that. All right? Gehenna, the lake of fire, Limnon, Limnane tu Pirus. The continual fires in the valley of Gehenna is like eternal hell in Mark 9 and verse 47, and Thayer, page 111. The lake of fire, when Hades and hell ends, the lake of fire begins, which is the second death. That's when you're tried. Those that are lost will be triunely thrown into the lake of fire to suffer forever. That's when they become eternal firewalkers. That's the end of it. The lake of fire. Revelation 20, 12 through 15. Let's go there and read that, and that's the end of it. Revelation 20, 12 through 15. Revelation 20. That's the last book in the Bible. Almost the last page there. All right. Revelation 20, 12 through 15. Linda, are you there?
Yeah.
All right.
Thought it was just a sec. I can't find it. Oh, and I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books.
All right, there's a book of lives, a book of living things. Now you're judged. You're judged to what place in heaven you're going to be. And you're judged to what place in hell you're going to be. Jesus said in His own ministry that there's some places that Sodom and Gomorrah would be judged less critically than all of the cities around the Sea of Galilee when they saw Him speak. They saw the Master speak. The Master of the universe. And they didn't listen. So they're going to be in a hot spot in hell. False religion is going to be on a hot spot in hell. When you start fooling around with the Bible and twisting it up, that's double damage, people. That's really bad. Linda? Was that all of it?
Yeah,
That's it.
13, you want me to?
13, yeah.
The sea gave up the dead who were in it, and death and Hades delivered up
Okay,
the
that's
dead.
the necros, the dead bodies. The dead spirits were already in hell.
Well, I don't have Hades.
The dead souls were already in hell. All right? They were already in Sheol.
Years.
Now they're going to be put in the lake of fire, which is eternal. Okay?
And the sea gave up the dead which were in it.
Uh-huh.
And the death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them.
That's right.
And they would judge every man.
The bodies
according
were
to
put
their
back
works.
together triunely to be thrown in eternal suffering.
It says according to their works.
According to what they did, yeah.
And it says according to what he had done.
Yeah, according to what you've done. What have you done with Jesus? That's the big thing. What have you done with Jesus? All right? Have you accepted Him as Messiah and King? Jehovah in the flesh? That's the whole story right there where you got two choices. Hell or heaven. The lake of fire or paradise. Well, I mean, say the average person would say, man, I don't like heat after being in Bakersfield. I don't like it. Any more? Up to verse 15 now.
Then death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, and anyone who was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire.
All right, the lake of fire, that's total thanatos, forever. That's total separation from now on, period. That's forever. Body, spirit, and soul of the lost. In heaven, body, spirit, and soul of the saved. You will be happy. Happy. There aren't any unhappy campers in heaven. There aren't any unhappy campers in the paradise. All right. Brother Brett, I can just see that you're just flaunching at the bit, ready to fly here.
Facing the floors over here.
Just walking the floor.
Hey, does this chair make your backside go to sleep when you're sitting up there?
No. I get set on that chair and
I have
my
a problem, I
and
think.
my foot feels better than my
Everything
back.
falls asleep on me when I sit down now. Even in class and everything.